Hello everyone, welcome to Pixar Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
Oh no, wait, I'm the Geoff.
And today we're going to talk about cars. Geoff, it's been a while since we had a chance to do one of these, and I wanted to apologize to everybody for how long it's been. Geoff is a teacher at a college, and once we get into the semester, he's got a very limited time, well, plus the other millions of
I'm actually the new
jobs
the Geoff. The other the Geoff got too old for the role and had to be replaced.
Oh, yeah.
So if you notice subtle differences in the voice or a mannerism here or there, that's because I'm a different actor.
So these might be a little bit sporadic from here on out, but I'm hoping we can knock these out.
Like cheese. Only different.
I'm hoping we can knock these out at least before, next summer when we might do some other.
Before I get too old for the role and we have to get another the
Geoff. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into it, shall we? Cars. This is, as we've talked about before, one of those movies that kind of polarizes Pixar fans a little bit, right?
Yeah. It has this one issue straight down the middle of it, and that is its conceit.
Yeah.
Here's a world where cars are people and there are no humans. And as a viewer, you're either able to get past that and say, okay, I accept that, now tell me a story, or you're unable, and all of the things in this world that don't make sense keep bugging you. And on the one, if you're able to get past it, this is so much fun. This is maybe the most fun Pixar movie to this point. But if you find yourself, through perhaps no fault of your own, being in the camp of why do these cars have doors, who assembles them, who designs them, why are they designed like
people should be driving them?
If that gets in your head and keeps ruining the conceit for you, then you have a really miserable time. Lucky for me, my disbelief is willingly suspended. So it didn't bother me. I love this movie to bits.
Not to go too far into this point, but you just made me think of something kind of interesting. I think maybe part of the reason that it's easier for you and I to suspend our disbelief on something like this that has such an absurd conceit to begin with is because of some of the other things that you and I are such big fans of already. I mean, like, you and I think one of the big things that Geoff and I have always had in common is that we love absurdist fiction. We're both, not put words in your mouth, but I think we're both big fans of 60s Batman and The Tick, and like we love things like this, and so it's easy to swallow something like this, as long as, and I think this movie does this, if the movie itself, if the creators of the thing are, as they're making it, clearly aware of how completely ridiculous this is, it's a lot easier to swallow. And so it puts out a lot of things that are kind of non sequiturs, and you're like, well, why do the trunks need keys? And there's a million things that are just like preposterous. But I think that part of what's fun about it, if you can get past that, is how preposterous those things are. I really enjoy, and this viewing, I've never thought about all those things in the way I did this time, and having seen this movie a lot and knowing it as well as I do, this viewing was really fun for me for precisely the reason it's probably not fun for some people. This viewing, because I know the story, I know it pretty well, I didn't have to pay attention so hard to all that stuff because I know it. It was fun for me to point those things out and try to find them and be like, well, now why would they need this, and wouldn't it be weird if you could open up your own trunk and put things in it, and if you were going to go on a trip to pack, what would you pack?
Jump in the trunk.
What would it be like if there were car thieves, and is that somehow or rather like a violation of someone's person? And I was just thinking about all these things, and if that's not distracting you, but it's just this other bizarre layer, I think it's
what would a trailer park be like in this universe?
When you said that,
the trailers
lost my mind.
Would be people.
That's so funny.
So for a car to live in a trailer, you'd be like a parasite. You'd be living inside another person's body.
Yeah, so
a larger person's body.
Yeah, would a mobile home have cars inside of it as it was being mobile?
And we see a whole bunch of RVs Yeah, as racing fans.
So yeah,
and
what's
so are the races.
what's in them? Oh yeah, because they're tailgating.
Yeah.
What's in them? See, and then it gets creepy, but in a hilarious sort of way. Like, I think we're asked not to think about those things, but then,
and yet
if
they're
we
there.
want to, yeah. So anyway, I found that a fun layer on top of the whole thing myself, but I also can completely understand people that just can't meet it to buy that, because yeah, it is weird. Why would this universe of cars be built for people that don't exist? And
yet cars have teeth.
Why?
Oh.
Yeah. The other thing, I'm sorry, let me say this real quick. The other thing that really gets me through this movie, though, that where that isn't a hindrance, is that it's at the same time about real people things.
Yeah.
And real values, and not just the message and the character arc, but also it's about American history.
Yeah.
And I love that aspect of it, and I think that's the thing that really resonated with me that might not resonate with everybody, because I'm originally from a small southern town, and not that I was like on Route 66, but I have experienced and known people that far more than me have experienced the town that used to be a great hub of commerce and history and stuff.
That used to be a main street until the interstate was built around the town,
and then it became a ghost town because there was no one to go there and do business with anymore. Yeah, and boy, the first time I saw this in the theater, when they do that what's the word I'm looking for? The montage.
Yeah.
Of that, and they show you what Radiator Springs used to look like. I teared up. I don't know if you did. I teared up at that the first time I saw it. It hit me in a place.
I found that moving. I found that a very moving moment. In the middle of a really funny film.
And I don't think I was liking the movie all that much until I got to that point. And that was the thing. It hit me in a place, and then suddenly, for whatever reason, it made me like all the characters and more. And I was invested in the people. Not just of that town, but also that... Because I felt like I was with Lightning McQueen. Like, why should I care about this little dinky small town in the middle of what I thought was this big racing movie? And then me along with that character, we
both
come to care.
Racism had nothing to do with it in the first place. It was all about the people.
We were watching this movie, and what is it? What's his name? Is it Guido? What is the name of that car?
Guido is the forklift, and Luigi is the one who talks.
Okay,
Luigi
yeah,
is the Fiat.
Okay, so that's right. So Luigi, he's the one that he jumps higher too. Luigi keeps talking about Ferraris and how much he loves Ferraris, and that didn't seem weird until I thought about the fact that they're both cars. And he's obsessed with this other make of car, like a person would be obsessed with a make of car and with racing and stuff. So they treat it like he's just a fanboy for European racing. But it actually, if you think about it, is kind of racist, isn't it?
For a car, that would be.
I think that's hilarious. And then Geoff says...
That would be like a Ford supremacist. I said, well, clearly this movie has race issues.
Did you just say Ford supremacist?
I did.
That's brilliant. That is almost as good as Lincoln Continental Breakfast.
They should have thought of it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they...
Maybe they should.
I don't know if they would have wanted to say that, because then they might be saying something about Ford, or it would come off like they were. Yeah, anyway, I'm sorry.
Michigan, Detroit militia thing.
We've gone totally off the rails, but that was the best part
off
of bringing up the funniest thing I've heard you say in a long time when you said... Actually, Ford supremacist is maybe the funniest thing I've heard you say in a long time.
We keep that one.
That's really good. But when you said, well, clearly this movie has race issues... Anyway,
it does, but it was about the people, and I think that is one of the very important things about how this movie works as it does, because on the one hand you have the conceit that is ridiculous. Okay, cars as people, these things which are objects made by people for people to use, are going to have a world of their own where there's no humans. All right, but the story told to us in that world holds together perfectly well.
Absolutely.
And it makes perfect sense. Nothing that happens in the story is stupidly impossible or irrational, given that we accept the world that the story comes out of.
And
that's
like
the difference
the
between...
best of these, it's really character-driven, and you care about these people, despite the ridiculous.
That's the difference between a movie like this that still has a whole lot of, wait a minute, what the heck, moments, and something like the kind of fodder for Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
Where the whole movie has just no more. What the heck? How should that work? Moments in it, and yet are awful.
Yeah, it was because there's nothing else grounding them. And what you have to ground something ridiculous like this in is a good story, which is, and we'll get to this, which I think is a lot of the reason that Cars 2 doesn't work as well.
I think you may be right about that.
But we'll get there. We'll talk about that. I still enjoyed that more than a lot of people did, but yeah.
Well, sometimes you do just have to be generous with a movie. I mean, at some point, you either have to let yourself enjoy it or decide not to. And if you decide not to, maybe the movie isn't to blame for your own decision.
Well, not everything is for everybody, right? Yeah.
I think Cars is a good example of a movie that there's nothing to hate on in it unless it's a thing that you brought into the theater with you.
Well, but let me ask you...
I hate this premise. I hate this concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet, if that shoots the movie down, then I think why would you go to any Pixar film after they did a movie with talking bugs, a movie about fish, a movie about sharks and other fish being friends instead of predator or prey, a movie about living toys. I mean, if the world doesn't make sense is the end of the game, then no fiction works, because fiction from its inception was about that. The novel comes to us from the Romantic period, and that is the concept. We will tell a story in an unreal setting about unreal people that allows us to illustrate and explore a fact of real life that you and I experience through the lens of an unreal setting.
Yeah, and the truth becomes an emotional truth, or a historical truth, or a personal truth.
And that's exactly what's going on here.
Absolutely, yeah. And but let me ask you this question. Do you think, because I do think that, and I agree with everything you said, but I do think that, and can understand why for some people this is a premise would be more ridiculous and harder to swallow than some of the other things that they did before. Because at least in those other things, it's like the world looks like we're used to it looking, but then there's this thing going on that we didn't know about already. Whereas here it's just this totally different alternate reality. But would you say, because I'm not sure, that that like to really appreciate this movie you need to have an understanding already, an appreciation for the historical ideas going on in it?
I sure think it would help.
Because I'm not sure I would have been as invested if I hadn't come to the movie with that. I guess what I'm suggesting is that, people might not like this as much if they brought something with them where they said, I don't want to, where they brought something with them, like you said. But also, I feel like I brought something with me that made me like it more.
True. I mean, I am almost old enough to actually remember Route 66.
Yeah.
I am old enough to remember before the interstate network, as we know it now, was complete, and some of the major cross-country routes still had not been freewayed all the way down.
Clearly this was an important idea to Lasseter.
I think it was. I think he actually said that.
Yeah.
He had been a Route 66 and a small-town person. And that's an issue. That was an issue that was dear to his heart. He also... he and I think it was Bird actually did a couple of full Route 66 tours all the way from Chicago to LA, more than 2,000 miles all the way, in preparation for even writing this and storyboarding this.
And it shows.
Locations, looking out landscapes, visiting little towns along the road, both little towns that are still towns and towns that have kind of disintegrated or evaporated as the highway had been bypassed and decommissioned. In Galena, Kansas, there is actually a renovated gas station. They're selling slushies now, I think, but they actually have the International Harvester tow truck that was the inspiration for Mater.
Really? That's cool.
that Lassiter and Bird saw as they're driving. That's Mater. They actually have that truck.
The research is so... All that research and
They have
love,
read the fire engine, too.
and love for that period in time is so crystal clear on the screen that there are moments, especially in big landscape shots, where I forget we're looking at animation.
Yeah. And especially the country drive that they take through the woods and then out in the canyon and everything.
It's absolutely breathtaking.
That is visually amazing.
Yeah, and you see this, what looks like photography, and I find myself thinking, I don't think they made up these landscapes. I think they went and shot all of this and then recreated it.
At the very least, they looked at some real landscapes to get a sense of what this ought to look like.
Yeah.
And
that's in a lot of ways the best part of the film, I think.
Certainly, that's where I saw...
Along with the montage, yeah.
That's where I saw they've taken yet another big step forward in their process and in the graphical engineering of it all.
Do you think... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Graphical engineering is now a word. I've just coined it. All profits go to me. Thank you.
That this...
Not the old The Geoff either. To me.
Do you think that... The Geoff too, the Wrath of Khan. Do you think that...
Someday we're all going to get together at a con.
This movie could have worked as a period piece? Like, do you think that he could have... that Lasseter could have conceived this as a movie completely about that idea and about the highway bypassing a small town and kind of crushing the hopes and dreams of the people there, and that that like he could have set this in the 50s, and then we see that happen inside of the movie. Because honestly, I think the fact that it's in the background is what's making it work. Like I think it would have seemed too heavy-handed if the entire movie was that idea. No. And I think you need the outsider coming in, because this is your classic outsider coming into an alien world kind of story, right?
And here, Radiator Springs here is a town that used to be a much more thriving, living thing than it now is. The outsider coming in at first sees what it now is and gradually learns what it used to be and what changed.
And then he comes to have an investment in helping it become what it used to be again.
And that's also part of what shows him the thing in himself that was his problem.
Yeah.
His superficiality, his success-driven mentality, and it's kind of the win and ignore the human cost. Except it's not really a human cost, is it?
Right.
Of moral.
And how do they exchange currency?
Yeah. What cost? What is their currency anyway? Hubcaps.
I don't know. People go into stores and they get tires and then they leave. And that's what we see. But we care about all of that through the eyes of Lightning McQueen, through the eyes of this character. Would we care as much if we didn't have that window? And like, you and I might. But I think what maybe helps, because I said that I like this movie more than a lot of people because of what I brought to it, but I think the movie is at least, maybe it's not working for everybody, I think it's working hard to give a general audience an appreciation of something maybe they've never understood or experienced or known about, especially a younger audience that just grew up with highways everywhere and the a line that really stuck with me, the highway that moves with the land instead of being built through the land.
Yes, that was a beautiful moment. I think also
it's hard for me to know if it's working on that level for people that didn't already care about that like I did. But I think that it's working hard at that.
Or consider also, so coming to this story from the perspective of a person who grew up and lived their whole life in a major or big old city.
Right. You have the urban experience as opposed to the small town experience.
A person could very easily grow up in, say, the New York City gravity well and never have seen a small town or non-city ever.
Or even experienced the highway.
Much less
in the way that we in the
Midwest highway that
do
wasn't
all the time.
packed with cars and blocked up and you go and your stop and go traffic jam.
Yeah.
And lucky enough to live in a part of the country where you can experience both cities and country and towns of all sizes in between.
That's maybe the thing I like the most about where we live.
Helps.
Is that we have the best of all of those worlds.
Yeah, and certainly at least an awareness of them that would be hard if we were somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's another thing that, and I think the way they set up the flashback montage does a pretty good job of showing the present and past
without beating you over the head with it. It's a very short part of the film. It's just, but it's also dead center.
Yeah, and it's in the emotional heart. It's kind of it's at the top of his character arc. It is his turning point. The last jerkhead thing he says, I fell in love. Oh, Ferrari? No. With this.
Yeah.
He never says anything jerkastic after that.
Yeah, and
that's a word too now.
And it's kind of nice that he and Sally don't have the obligatory end of a kind of romantic arc, because I mean like there is kind of a romance there, but it's and plus you can't go too far because it's weird. They're two cars. What would you do with it? You know what I mean? Like I don't want to see.
We didn't have to see.
I don't want to see the 2-car makeout scene. I don't know how it would work. You know what I mean? Like you just don't want that. So like he's falling in love with. He's okay. Anyway. But what I'm saying is, look, I was gonna stop at makeout, okay? But anyway, he's falling in love with this place, along with and maybe even despite the girl, right? Like I mean, she has a lot to do with it, and also, to be fair, he's daydreaming about her while he's driving at the end in the big race, and he's daydreaming about her over the town. So that's not to say that there's not a flourishing romance going on there, nor that it won't continue past the film. But what I like is that is a part of his of his epiphany, not the end of the epiphany.
Exactly. It doesn't take over. It doesn't. The movie does not tell me that falling in love redeems him.
Yeah.
Both because that's crap, and because I've seen enough movies with that as a story.
Yeah. No, it's coming to appreciate people and relying on them. That's what's most important.
In lots of different ways.
And another great message for a children's movie, yes?
Yeah. I mean, he builds a relationship with Doc Hudson. He builds a relationship with Mater. He builds a relationship with Sally. He builds a relationship to some extent with all of the other cars as well. Mm-hmm. And they're all different relationships, and they're all about different things. So it's not. So we're not left with love, but that just connecting with people on every level and all the different levels you can connect with all sorts of different people. That is what humanizes you, or
carbonizes you.
Carbonizes you.
Well done. And I think going right along with all that, especially with his relationship with Doc Hudson, but also with appreciating this old small town that he again comes to have an investment in reviving, is the kind of old versus new motif, because he's all about the new. You know, he's the young car that's gonna win all the cups and get all the girls, right? Like that's what he cares about.
He's the next rookie in line.
I like that in his dream, in that first dream sequence we get of his, where he dreams of himself as a movie star and all that kind of stuff. You get all the contemporary stuff, and then with Hudson, you come to find that he has a romantic notion about racing and the history of racing. Like he's not just the current race car. He also knows his history about racing, and so there's immediately a common ground there. It's like it's not just that he comes to appreciate old things, and that old things can help new things be better, that kind of thing.
Plus the old cars.
With with age comes wisdom, and then the wisdom is passed down to the young kid, who in turn can maybe pass it on again later. But also that maybe he already had that, and he just had to discover that he had that. It's nice that it comes from a place, that it's not, I said it's an epiphany, but it also comes from a place. Like I said, he does have this appreciation of racing history, and I think that helps get him to the kind of,
at least an awareness of it.
Yeah. And so that's why me in the theater, besides just what I already had in my background about this. I mean, I came from kind of like a junk background. So what I mean is, my dad and I, my dad owned flea markets when I was a kid, and he did that for like 10 or 12 years, and so I was around a lot of paraphernalia from this period, and I saw a lot of that kind of stuff, and so I experienced it vicariously, in a way, and so
Lizzie's shop.
Yeah, and so when so when he's coming to kind of appreciate again old things, I feel like I'm coming along with him, not just because I already have that, but because both of us had kind of a place that we came from.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think any old car that went to that place would have necessarily appreciated what it used to be. Well, that couple that's traveling certainly doesn't.
No, nor the 4 bad cars, the gangsta cars, and that show up in the beginning and then finally at the end.
Yeah.
Nice payoff, thank you.
There's a lot of great payoffs in this. I like that he drives backwards in the race at the end.
Yeah, the backwards and then the turning right to go left.
Right to go left thing, yeah.
In opposite world.
Yeah, I love that.
That was both fun and also an underlining of the point of the film.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that separates Pixar's writing from some of the other folks who are writing animated stuff. Some of the very funny things, some of the comedic climaxes of the film are tied up with and are a part of, at the same time, the moral climax of the film, the emotional climax of the film. The plot and the funny are one in a way that they just are never going to be in Shrek 64 or Land Before Time
19, yeah. Maybe they
or
made that
what
many
was
by
that?
now.
Ice Age 7 Factorial.
And one of the things I like about the turning right to go left thing at the end, because I mean, I guess I kind of expected that you'd get that because there's been so much talk about it, and that's kind of the big lesson that he learns, that is the physical lesson that he learns that is reflective of the more internal transformation going on. But I think it's important that you get something like that because we're not just being told he's changed, but he's showing us that he has.
We get to see it.
Yeah.
And the turn right to go left motif is wrapped up with it at the same time as the Brad Paisley song. Sometimes when you lose your way, it's the best thing that can happen to you because that's when you find yourself.
Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't even
nice thematic
draw that conclusion, but yeah, sure.
Let's talk about music.
Okay, go ahead.
They still are making a lot of nice music picks for these films, and they're still, although this is the first time they've ever really reached out to people that were contemporary right then.
That's right.
And I felt like the music in this story yet again is so well integrated. The James Taylor song about the old town.
Well, and it's an appropriate place to put James Taylor, isn't it?
Yeah, where else would you want him to be? There he is.
Yeah, right.
I mean, even Sheryl Crow at the beginning summed up that scene so well. The montages in this film are really good, and I'm not usually a fan of montages.
Yeah, me neither.
Usually don't care for them, but this movie has a bunch of them, and they're all really good.
I think part of the thing is because there's a timetable here. There's a ticking time bomb in a way, and because of that, there are places where we need to have the time passes moment.
Yeah.
Because we know how long we have, and we know how long we have a kind of a sense of how long he's gonna be in this town, or at least how long he can stand to be there before the race is gonna happen and he's gonna miss it. So there are places where you have to either do a montage or simply skip past some time. And I think the montages help you know when you are.
Yeah. No, they're used well, and they actually are helping things along, and have enough in them that's rewarding, that we don't just tune out, as I usually do.
Well, because they're
well used. I still wish.
Yeah.
I could have heard a jazz version of Route 66.
Yeah.
that was the only thing I missed. And maybe there's something purposeful in avoiding, since they've used so much jazz in all their other movies.
Yeah, and also because this isn't about that world. This is about the South. And so it makes sense to have a lot more country and western. And we have some other things besides that, because obviously when he's racing, he's not in the South. But, or at least, well, he's not, I'm sorry, he's not in the small town South. Yeah. And so, no, you're right. And the racing world is pretty country. A lot of it, you know what I mean?
I noticed.
Like, yeah, and so anyway, you know, both musically and attitude. I mean, like, I really like just how country, and I mean country in a good way, where the head of Dynaco.
Yeah.
He's
a
got
Texas car with the antlers.
He's got that whole he's got that whole Texas thing going on, and
he's called Tex.
So anyway, yeah, I don't know that jazz, of any form, would have really fit in this movie. No. There's a lot of, in just the score, there's a lot of bluegrass, which I really appreciated. Yeah. Just because, A, I like bluegrass, and B, it just fit really well with the mood and the motifs going on, and the kind of simplicity of where they are.
But it still seems strange to me that the Buddy Holly Route 66, and then cracked up John Mayer version.
Yeah, I'm not saying I loved the John Mayer version.
Where the choices, out of a trillion recordings of this song by a trillion very good musicians.
Well, I'm not sure they didn't go to John Mayer, but I'd have to look that up. But I mean, like, that's the only place.
That was John Mayer.
No. My point is, that's the only place I know of that version ever appeared. So what I'm saying is, they might have gone to John Mayer and asked him to make a new one. Is what I'm suggesting. But I don't know. Maybe not.
Why make a new rock version of the song when you're using a rock version of the song already?
Well, the other thing too is, though, I don't know how much of the music in this isn't like originally arranged for this, because that country arrangement of "Life is a Highway" was the first time I'd ever heard that, and I think that might have been for this too. I didn't do any research before this. I should have. But anyway,
that's a song I wasn't familiar with before. I assumed it was new for the movie.
Yeah, and see, I had the same thing you did with the jazz thing with Route 66. I liked that song, and I could have used the original. You know. I didn't need a country fried remix of that, but whatever. It wasn't a remix.
Kentucky Fried Movie.
But anyway, one of the things that this movie kind of has to do, because it's about a contemporary sport, and it's about something that's going on right now, and is also about not the real history of it, but in a loose sort of way, because it has to give actual dates. Most of these movies are pretty ambiguous about what time period we're in, and they try not to go for too many contemporary references. This movie goes about as far as I think Pixar is generally willing to. This is the most contemporary references I've ever seen in a Pixar film, and maybe there were more in Cars 2, and I don't remember. But for this world, it makes sense, because again, it is a very contemporary kind of thing. Plus, they want to do, for good reason, lots of homages and parodies of real race car drivers, and there's so much actual NASCAR in this.
Cameos of.
Yeah, and so there are a couple of places where there is a very right now in 2005 kind of reference that you wouldn't usually get in a Pixar film that totally dates it, and yet I think the movie is kind of wanting to be dated. It's more okay because of what it is, and like there's a reference, and it's very funny. There's a parody of Schwarzenegger,
right?
And he's
the governor.
He's the governor of California, and he's not anymore. And so this is dated now.
In all fairness, in 2005, once he was elected, we all kind of assumed that he was going to be governor for life.
That's right.
Central American president for life, or African dictator or something.
Well, it was just such a big deal,
for
people, that nobody thought he would ever quit.
And then he went into making films, and I can't understand why they picked a politician to be an actor. But yeah, they had him. They had the Governor. They had Jay Limo.
Yeah, Jay Limo.
I liked that.
That was great.
That was a nice moment and a good little joke for him. That was fun. I liked the montage of different cars on the news,
Yeah.
including the Japanese car with the news in Japan.
Yeah.
Apparently the Japanese are following NASCAR in this world.
For some reason.
Maybe they are in the real world. I don't know. I've never asked.
I doubt it, but maybe.
It didn't show up on Dragon Ball. I don't know. But this is a sports movie.
It is a sports movie. Yeah.
And it's great. A lot of its links are to the big sports movies and the movies about athletes.
When you first saw this, did you wonder? Because I know I did. I do every time I see a sports movie that you might walk in and see the same coming of age kind of sports movie that you've seen, or like the team that it's racing, but I mean, like, you know, so many of those movies you have like the team that has to come together because by a coach that helps them learn how to work as a team,
and the coach has just failed in his career and he thinks his life is over and this is an unexpected rebirth. I haven't
or that somehow as the singular, because this isn't a team thing, or that somehow as a singular thing, this would somehow be Rocky again or something. Yeah, I was happy, that we don't get the typical, well, he wins at the end, but he learned his lesson, so yay.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing.
Fortunately for me, I haven't actually watched a lot of sports movies because I never cared. I don't think the old the Geoff had either. I'll ask him at the next con we're appearing at.
I also appreciate that. I also appreciate that this doesn't just straight up use one of those formulas, and I think the thing that I really liked about it is maybe again one of the things that other folks don't really care so much for, because like it kind of professes to be a big racing movie, and then you spend most of it in this little town in the South, you know. Yeah. But I don't know. I felt like that was Lasseter coming right out very early in the film and saying, "Don't worry, this isn't exactly that sports movie you've seen 1,000 times, and we're not going to tell you the exact same." I mean, you know, it's not like this message is missing from a lot of sports movies. It's just that it's told in a different sort of way, and I think in a better way than a lot of them.
Well, and this is Pixar's writing team again.
Yeah.
They understand the difference between a concept and a conceit.
Yeah.
They understand that the racing is a part of the backdrop of the story, but is not itself the story.
Yeah.
And that is a big difference between this and a lot of the sports movies that a person you might want to compare it to.
Yeah, the puns.
Although perhaps the better of them actually do remember to be about the people and their personal and moral choices.
Oh, and there are some great sports movies, sure. Yeah.
But, and that's what separates the good sports movies from the bad ones, I should think.
Yeah, with something like this, where the conceit is this is a world of cars and there's no people in it, the puns about that and the homages to real people and the absurdity of all of that, that's gotta be flourishes. You know, as opposed to being the whole meat. Yeah, and a lot of that might be what you remember about it, because that's what's funny about it.
Those are the quotable lines.
Yeah, exactly.
Lightning McQueen must be found at all costs.
and that's how you get. Why does he care that much? But they.
I heard that myself.
Yeah, because they're not in California, are they?
Yeah, the big race is in California.
Oh, it is. Okay, I couldn't remember. Okay.
The first one, it's not specified exactly, but we assume it's something like Atlanta or Talladega or something. Motor Speedway of the South.
but anyway, yeah, you know, you want to be sucked into a quirky, kooky, fictional universe like this, and that's a lot of the stuff that you take with you. You know, you want it to be consistent and different, but you but you suspend your disbelief, and it has its own internal logic, and this does its best at that as far as it can possibly go. But that can't be all of it. You have to have you have to have a real story driving it, and I think most importantly, and
driving it.
I think that this. I just thought of this, and I don't know if I'm 100% right about it. But what I was thinking anyway was that maybe you totally threw me off. That you need a story in a world like this that you could, in the broader sense, tell with people in like a real world sort of setting. This story could have been told without cars.
Yeah.
See, this could have been a story about a race car driver who gets stuck in a small town and then learns something about himself and then goes back to race. You see what I'm saying?
It would be the same story.
Yeah, and
Just
so what?
way more boring.
But my point is, what's making it work is that it's grounded in these real person ideas, but also just a person that we come to care about.
Yeah. As somebody who pretty much refuses to watch movies that are about real people in the real world at all.
I've noticed that
I
about
appreciate
you.
that.
Yeah.
I live in the real world. That's all I need. Go to a movie. The last thing I need is more of real life. If real life was so great, I wouldn't go to movies.
And in the future, we'll be reviewing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and The Wizard of Oz and
Totally on. Yeah, this a point about this one that I think is worth bringing up.
Yeah.
Because it makes me seem cool, and that's the difference between a concept and conceited, by the way.
Oh, I see. Yes. All right.
There have been a number of animated cartoons about cars, and in almost all of them, the headlamps are the car's eyes.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
the
true.
grill becomes the car's whole face. With one exception, there are one or two Disney cartoons from the 50s, short subjects, that actually feature a car that's anthropomorphized the way these are, where the windscreen is the eyes and the
yeah.
mouth. You can find it on.
There's a couple things hitting my head right now, and I
internets.
can't remember the names of them. But yeah,
But
now
it's
that you
an
say that,
it's not the usual choice when cars have been personified in animation.
how did they do it with the car in Roger Rabbit? Do you remember?
The eyes were the headlight.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because the car in Roger Rabbit was a convertible. It had no top.
That's right.
It had
Yeah.
a windshield, but it was just a windshield.
That's right. Well, that's interesting.
It's the more
Yeah.
common interpretation that's chosen. I don't know exactly all of the mechanics of this.
I assume
This
the biggest
choice-
reason was just so that they could have his lights be stickers.
True, that joke wouldn't have worked, nor would Mia and Tia flashing
Well,
their headlights at him at the race.
And that's not just a joke; it's kind of a important part of his character
Yeah.
too.
His headlights aren't real.
Yeah. He has nothing to guide him.
He's blind.
Yeah.
He cannot see what is real.
And most importantly, he
He's
doesn't.
as blind as he can be, because he just sees what he wants to see.
I think this is a metaphor
No,
playing
man,
out.
can you see me at all?
I think this is a metaphor playing out. I just thought of this.
That's by the Volkswagen Beetles, by the way.
Maybe I'm reading too far into this, but I think this is actually a metaphor playing out in physically the look of the car. Okay, because he doesn't have headlights. They're just stickers. He can't, like we said, metaphorically see where he's going. But also importantly, people make fun of him for it.
Yeah.
And he says, "Well, what do I need headlights for? I'm a race car, and I'm never gonna go anywhere but on this
The
track."
track is always lit.
Yeah, the track is always lit, but the thing is, he doesn't. The big part of his character at the beginning, and that he has to overcome, is that he doesn't think that he needs people. Ergo, he doesn't think that he needs guidance. He needs nothing to show him the way, and he has no headlights. I don't think I'm reading too far into that. I think that's there.
And the flip side of that, too, is that this is about someone becoming humanized, or in his case, automized.
Automized. That's different. No, that's a totally different thing.
Atomized.
Personified. No, he's already that.
I mean, but, he's becoming more of a real person than he had been before. The starting out him is the race car and nothing else. He has no relationships. He has no interests. He never goes for a drive. He doesn't have anything to live for except racing, and winning.
Yeah.
And
fame.
And if he ever lost races and stopped being famous, he would have no reason not to just drive straight off a cliff.
Right. But that would be a very morbid move for a Pixar film.
Yes, that would be a little dark. Which is what you get when you don't have headlights.
Oh.
By becoming... And even at the end, they say, well, they joke about it at the beginning, well, maybe we're going to save up enough to buy you some real headlights. Things that a real car who lives in in the world and has the rest of life beyond just racing to live for.
Mm-hmm.
So part of this metaphor, I think, is he is not a complete car.
Oh, that's cool.
But he's going to learn the point of becoming one.
Yeah.
I do not know.
It's almost too bad he doesn't get headlights at the end.
It's not made clear at the end that he does, although
maybe.
I don't know how we'd be able to tell.
I forget if he has them in the sequel.
They say anything about it in the sequel or not.
Yeah. So maybe it's not a perfect metaphor or a completed metaphor, but it's kind of there. But he certainly.
It's unusual for Pixar not to pay off something like that.
Yeah, that could be an unfortunate
we may be just
thing.
Making this up.
We might just be making this up, but it's kind of.
By the way, I just made that up. All profits to.
It's neat how much of it is actually there, though. Yeah. Even if they didn't intend that, because the idea, I love what you said. The idea of him being a complete car is true because he needs help. He needs other people, and the whole idea of his crew trying to give him headlights at the beginning. I mean, like. He's a jerk to everybody, but people keep trying to help him. You know,
yeah.
like people.
The king giving him this advice at the beginning.
Yeah,
that he totally
they see his talent.
Zones.
They see his talent. They see his potential. But he's never going to live up to that potential if he insists on doing everything on his own and going his own way. Because look, he doesn't even have headlights. Like he's not capable of doing everything on his own, even though he thinks that he can.
He can't see.
And ultimately, the message is that nobody is. Everybody needs the I like what Doc says at the end. The crew that'll work for you.
That's right. We
all need that. We all need a support system. You know.
Even the semi-truck he meets in the wilds of wilderness, which is hauling recycled batteries, and whose side looks like it was drawn by an 8-year-old with crayons. Says, and turn on your lights, you moron.
Yeah, right.
Everybody in the world knows the answer.
And I think it's interesting that everybody tries to help him, but he has no friends.
Yeah.
You know, nobody especially wants to hang out with this guy because the support system that he does have is, but also a lot of the people that he is working with are also kind of jerks. Some of them aren't, but then he's got his agent who's not really there for him. He's there for his agent.
The agent's a parasite. I'm not even convinced the agent is a car.
Me neither, because we only see it in a phone, and the phone makes no sense because it has buttons, and how the cars push the buttons, and toward the end when he's getting in or toward the beginning of the third act when he's getting into the truck, creepily what Harv?
Yeah.
Harv keeps going, oh no, that's it, go ahead, pull back, no, don't leave, pull back. How does he know what's going on? How does he see anything?
Because we phones can see everything.
Oh my god, man, that was creepy. Like, I'd never thought of it before, and I was like, How is he seeing that he's in a phone? He was like the phones have eyes. Yeah, he was like Hal from 2001. Like,
I'm sorry, Dave. What are you doing?
I'm sorry, McQueen.
For science. No, that's GLaDOS. Never mind.
Well, anyway, anything else we should bring up about this? You just say no.
Sorry, vapor lock.
Vapor lock. How by the way? I was hoping you were going somewhere with that. How by the way would a stick shift car in this universe shift?
And there's places in here where there's a sound effect for it. You actually hear them shifting gears.
Well, maybe it's just a muscle.
Who? And
what is inside the car in the front if we don't have people? Why would they have this big hollowed out? Why do they have doors?
Are some of them automatic and some of them standard shaft? And what would the difference be if they are?
And who is manufacturing? Do they manufacture themselves? How do they decide how many of different kinds of cars they need?
Mac actually says, thank the manufacturer, we're here.
Yeah.
those two tourist cars in the stinger at the end say, "For the love of Chrysler."
I missed that. I mean, I guess your life in this universe is completely preordained for you, because if you're a police car, well, that's what you're going to be doing for a living. I realize Planes kind of tried to tackle this.
Finding your destiny.
A little bit, and I think it sort of fell flat. So, I mean, at least there was an attempt somewhere to do something with that. But I mean, yeah.
If you were born in RV, you're never going to be a race car.
But then all of these cars.
How much of your body? What parts of a car can be replaced without changing who you are?
Yeah, and then all of these cars are
they use their tires like
manufactured.
hands, and yet their tires can be removed and replaced like a real car. Think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, time to get my hands changed. Ew.
Yeah, well, it's like if you were a cyborg.
I mean,
and
what part?
Yeah.
How much of the engine? I mean, Doc Hudson got in that wreck in '51. The King is wrecked at the end. You know, when a real car is wrecked that much, when a real car is wrecked that badly, we don't replace anything. We junk it.
Yeah.
Because it would cost a lot more to repair it than it would to replace it. But I mean, think of the parts of him that would be damaged in that. What parts of a car are essential to identity? The outer body, probably not. Okay. How much of the engine matters? The pistons, the cylinder block,
yeah.
Transmission.
What part contains your soul? Now we're reading far too into this at this point, but I feel
clearly the cars have souls.
Yeah. I feel the worst though for like the police cars and the like ice cream truck and what, because like at least something like Doc Hudson could be like a Renaissance car and do a whole lot of different sorts of things. But like, you know, if you're a police car, that's what you're stuck doing. But then they all embrace those stereotypes too.
Yeah, it's like they are so built.
They're almost pre-programmed, except for the ones that aren't.
Become what they are.
Because again, Doc Hudson doesn't seem to be pre-programmed. He does all of these different things. He's a judge and jury. No, not that. He's
a doctor of internal combustion.
He's a doctor. That's hilarious. He's a doctor. He's a judge, and he used to be a race car. But not every car could do that sort of thing because they're all built for specific sorts of things.
Although Doc Hudson was a race car.
Yes.
And then was smashed to bits in a big flaming wreck and mostly rebuilt.
Oh, okay. So he was rebuilt to do other tasks.
So
he used to be just a straight-up race car, and that's all he would have done back then. So you're talking a second life then.
Maybe. Or maybe it's the fact that since that wreck ends his racing career, then he is forced to find something to be other than a race car. And that's why he would choose to go to med school and become a doctor of internal combustion.
Internal combustion.
I like that a lot.
Med school.
Club Med for cars.
Because med school would be exactly the same as mechanic school.
Yeah.
It would be exactly the same.
Think about it.
Yeah. Did you think that we were going to have this much to say about this movie?
Yeah, I was pretty sure we would.
I didn't think we would get that existential about it, though.
Well, it's all about finding yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, next time, Geoff, we're going to be...
you choose to drive.
We're going to be talking about... Okay, it's time to move on. No, next time we're gonna be talking about Ratatouille, which is a movie that I've only seen one time, Geoff.
We're going to have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I liked it a lot, I've never gone back to it. And I'm really looking forward to doing it again, and I'm sure I'll find all kinds of things that I never thought of before in that movie. So I remembered it being pretty layered.
Kentucky Fried Movie now, and we're moving on to Rat in a Box.
Rat in a Box. That sounds
We fry what
lovely.
you won't touch.
Well, anyone can cook.
Anyone can cook, that's true.
Well, anyway, Geoff, I don't know when we're going to have time to come back and do another one of these. Hopefully soon.
Only the shadow knows.
Anyway, well, folks, we'll see you again next time. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the Geoff, and I will see you again unless I'm replaced.
Bye.